We all have been dealing with a lot since the pandemic has started. Indian healthcare workers are trying their best to control the situation. National Institute of Disaster Management encourages you to take the preventive measures against the coronavirus. Always wear a mask and sanitize your hands frequently. Also follow all the protocols of social distancing. Get yourself vaccinated from your nearest vaccination center. Until then, stay home and stay safe.
I'm Hemant Meena. I'm Assistant Inspector General of Forest Protection Division, and we are nodal for disaster management for related issues for the ministry. I welcome everyone in this preparatory cum sensitization workshop on disaster management plan, and which is being developed in coordination with National Institute of Disaster Management. This workshop is chaired by Director General of Forest and Special Secretary, Mr. Sanjay Kumar, and he's going to chair this meeting. I welcome you, sir. From NIDM side, I welcome Major General Manoj Kumar Bindal, Executive Director, and Professor Anil Gupta and his team. I welcome all of you, and I welcome our stakeholders. We have with us divisional head of various divisions of the ministry, their nodal officers and heads and their representatives of various institutions of the ministry. As all of you are aware that India has got a very strong legal policy framework for disaster management plan. We have National Disaster Management Act 2005. After that, there is a National Disaster Management Policy 2009, and thereafter National Disaster Management Authority has developed one National Disaster Management Plan 2019, and there is a PM agenda for disaster management plan, 10-point agenda, in which there is a statutory requirement for every ministry to develop a disaster management plan which is wholesome, comprehensive, and should address all issues related to mitigation, adaptation, recovery, and most importantly, capacity building. Presently, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change is nodal for mainly three disasters, which are forest fire, chemical disasters, and contamination of the water bodies. But since Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change is dealing with critical issues of climate change, biodiversity conservation, wildlife, pollution, and there are so many other issues which divisions are handling, and which could be a source of, if not handled properly, could be a source of major disaster, maybe future disaster. Currently, India is going through a COVID-19, which is a pandemic and which is a very unforeseen and unknown kind of disaster, and through which India is struggling to recover and manage this disaster. So in this background, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has in National Institute of Disaster Management for developing its comprehensive management plan. And for this, every division has nominated nodal officers, and NIDM will coordinate all the divisions of the ministry as well as certain institutes, so that we can develop a wholesome disaster management plan, and in which the disaster which are not considered very important and which are unknown should be taken into account in this plan. So with this introduction, I welcome all of you, and now I request Professor Anil Kumar Gupta for context setting. Sir, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Shri Hemant Kumar Meena ji, for opening the discussion of the day, and on behalf of the National Institute of Disaster Management, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Ministry of Home Affairs, and all those who are concerned on working together for reducing the risk of disasters and also reducing the impact of disasters. It is really a matter of privilege for all of us at this occasion that we have taken this initiative of preparation of disaster management plan, which is the national plan for environment, forest and climate change related disasters, for which Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change is the custodian. It is my proud privilege to welcome Shri Sanjay Kumar Ji, Director General of Forests, who is also the Special Secretary of the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Sanjay Kumar Ji, who is known for taking keen interest in the subject of environment protection, conservation, but also his focus has always been on planned approach or a systemic approach of dealing with these kind of issues. And therefore, this initiative, which also has the approval and the directive from the Secretary of the Ministry of Environment and Forest, Shri Gupta sir. So we also extend sincere thanks to Shri Gupta sir also. Our Executive Director, Major General Manoj Kumar Bindal, since his joining as the leader of the institute at an IDM, we had extended our support to a number of ministries in developing their disaster management plan. The reason for which had actually stemmed from the experience that the National Disaster Management Authority and various other ministries had when they evaluated the disaster management plan prepared by various departments and ministries, and they found that a little more systemic approach is required for developing these kind of plans, because these kind of plans are not only for the sake of developing a plan, but ensuring their ground implementation is even more important. As Shri Meena ji referred to, that Ministry of Environment and Forest is nodal for certain ministries. Yes, that is true. But if we look at the Disaster Management Act 2005, and if we look at the Disaster Management Policy of 2009, and then based on which the Disaster Management Plan of the country has been prepared, and which was released by the Honorable Prime Minister in 2016, and then updated recently in December 2019. The law does not say that a ministry or department is responsible only for one kind of disaster, because now we are in the regime of multi-hazard approach, where we say that multi-hazard, multi-pronged, multi-sector approach. So we are now going sectoral with sector approach, which has the clear endorsement for under the Prime Minister's 10-point agenda on disaster risk management, which Honorable Prime Minister gave while he inaugurated the 7th ASEAN Ministerial Conference in 2016 December that took place in Delhi. So this is really a very important occasion, because whenever we were working on various aspects of disasters, we have been closely collaborating with various departments of various divisions of the Ministry of Environment Forest. For example, it has a integrated coastal zone management division. It has National Mission on Himalayan Ecosystems. It has a hazardous substance management division. It has the entire gamut of forestry, forest and wildlife department, which deals with man-animal conflicts, forest fire-related issues, pest attack-related issues, and then so many other dimensions. As Mr. Meena also referred to about pollution. Pollution has earlier never been considered as a disaster, but now the episodes that we are witnessing, particularly the air pollution kind of episodes that we are witnessing, that is taking the form of a major environmental emergency, and we are required to call on the health emergencies also, as we had last year. Now, the contamination of water bodies, particularly the sudden contamination that can present the scenario of disaster, looking to that on the directives of the Cabinet Secretary who chairs the National Crisis Control Committee, we are working for Ministry of Environment and Forests through Central Pollution Control Board in developing the National Crisis Management Plan to deal with the sudden contamination of water bodies. So these kind of initiatives are also there. Just to recall that it was 2010 we had supported Ministry of Environment and Forests in developing, in carrying out the national consultation process for capturing the issues for developing the National Action Plan for Chemical Disaster Management under the division of HSMD. So Ministry of Environment and Forests covers a range of issues associated with natural disasters, man-made disasters, and also a range of issues which are exaggerated by the impact of climate change, because ministry is the nodal for climate change and National Action Plan for Climate Change. So these are the kind of issues which are important, and which are the kind of a context while we will be developing, we will be discussing more about the framework and other things that I'll be sharing during my detailed presentation following the inaugural remarks. So these are the basic context of today's meeting, and with this background, I extend sincere thanks to the entire gamut of the Ministry of Environment, Forest, and the environment sector. So over to you, Shri Meenaji.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Major General Manoj Kumar Bindal, sir, Executive Director, NIDM, for his kind remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Meenaji. First of all, heartiest welcome participants who have joined, and a special welcome to Dr. Sanjay Kumar, who's DG Forest and Special Secretary, because his very presence here shows the commitment of the ministry and the seriousness that they allot to this particular project. And so I'm very thankful to you, sir, that you have joined us today, and also are sending home this message that this particular project needs to be taken seriously, because it is the need of the hour. NIDM has been preparing, helping the ministries preparing various national disaster management plans as relevant to their ministry, and out of which National Agricultural Plan has been okayed by NDMA, and they have said that this is one of the best plans that they've seen so far among all the ministries. So I'm sure with the cooperation and the hard work, cooperation of the ministry and the hard work put in by the team under Professor Gupta, this plan will also become better than the previous one that was prepared, because the experience gaining of that particular plan and all the issues that we learned that we could have done so and so can be put into this plan. The task is very monumental, because for Ministry of Agriculture, it was just about 20 plus divisions. Here we are talking about 47 divisions, which is more than double the numbers that we are dealing with. And every division has its own uniqueness, has its own requirement, has its own HRVCA, has its own needs which need to be catered for. So all these things make the task quite complicated and quite, I'll say, tenuous task, which I'm sure the team will be able to cater for. And in this, the support of all the divisions is required, because what we saw in while making the plan in Ministry of Agriculture, that the division was not prepared. The divisions were not prepared to give the correct input. A whole plan depends upon the correct inputs from the divisions in the required format. So those formats, everything will be presented in the detailed presentation hereafter. And there will be a number of consultation workshops, meetings with the division heads. So here, if somehow those division heads, a person who has the knack and who has some knowledge of the whole division because of his continuity with the division and past experience, should be nominated as a nodal person who can thereafter gain the data from every division and help in making the plan of his division better. So everyone has to look after their own division, that my division plan is the best. So if that feeling can be generated within the ministry, I think we will be able to make a best plan possible in the country for disaster management, best possible plan for any ministry in the country, because this is one of the largest ministries, and making a plan for this ministry is an honor. And we are thankful to Dr. Sanjay Kumar, who showed his confidence on NIDM and collaborated with us for making this plan. So with this, I will once again come down to 2 points, that cooperation is the key word to making this plan, and the right people should be chosen to help sit with NIDM while making this plan. It should not be just a number of people being chosen. It is the right people being chosen, because that will help us a great deal. So I wish all the very best to the team, both the teams from Ministry of Environment and NIDM for this endeavor. I once again thank Dr. Sanjay Kumar for joining us, and I'm keen to listen to him. Thank you. Over to you, Meena ji.
Thank you, sir. Sir, you have rightly pointed out it's a monumental exercise, and we have requested all the divisions to nominate right person who has knowledge of these aspects and can give the right input. Now I request Dr. Sanjay Kumar, Director General of Forest and Special Secretary, for his inaugural remarks. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, Major General Bindal, Professor Gupta, Mr. Meena, my colleagues in the ministry, faculty members and experts from NIDM, a very good morning to you all. We know that this is a very, very important topic for which we have gathered today. And this particular session will actually go a very, very long way in, I would say, the overall security of the country. Major General Bindal has alluded upon the complexity of the task which is there for this ministry. Not only because there are 47 divisions involved, but there is a vast number of areas to be tackled. And each area actually could be one of the sources of disaster as well as recipient of a disaster. Take, for example, a wildlife area. A wildlife area could itself be a source of disaster if there is very critical episode of human-wildlife conflict. A very large herd of wild elephants, for example, if they enter into habitation and then they cause destruction of life and property, then it becomes a disaster. But then a wildlife area could also be a recipient of all sorts of disasters. It could be disaster from air pollution, it could be disaster from water pollution, it could be disaster from the point of view of any kind of mining activity which has gone array, and some major accident has happened which has caused flaring up of some destructive processes. Say, for example, what we have witnessed recently in the leakage of the oil well in Assam, when a whole sanctuary was threatened because of the gas leakage and the ensuing fire from that. So each of the subject which is being dealt by all the 47 divisions of the ministry, the task becomes very complex. Not only the area, but also because each one is both a source and a recipient of different types of disasters. Yeah. And each will have unique characteristics and then will need to be addressed properly, actually. One of the more important things is that disasters in the environment sector, they could be both predictive and unpredictable. We know that climate change is happening, and we could be able to somehow model the effects of climate change and what it will relate to the continuous droughts in certain areas or heavy rainfall in certain areas. But then there are many unpredicted events which could happen because of various factors, predisposing factors. This could be climatic factors, this could be man-made factors. And when we address those unpredicted or unpredictable episodes, then the whole plan becomes very complex. One of the most important things is that how do you actually address the issue of proper communication with regard to those unpredictable or unpredicted events of disaster. There is a very, very specialized science for communications which relate to unpredicted or unpredictable events. Because what is there that people don't have a very clear experience of those unpredicted disasters. That those disasters might have happened in the remote past. So there is no memory also in most of the cases. And people are not very eager or or ready to actually understand the fact that those disasters could really happen. Yeah. So those disasters, those unpredicted or unpredictable disasters may not actually be causing a threat, real threat in the minds of the people, and the tendency would be to ignore. So the critical challenge for a good plan would be as to how we communicate in this plan very effectively to the stakeholders, to the people who are there about those events. How to make them understand that this could really happen so that they are very well prepared. And to do that, the information which needs to be passed on must be very methodical and must be very reasonable. That must be correct information. So my request to all the divisional heads or the nodal officers of different divisions is to ponder upon this fact and to share with NIDM all those kinds of information which are real, which are scientifically proven information, and which could actually get embedded in the minds of the people who could be affected because of the disaster. And then the second part would be, that is for NIDM, to actually tailor or to design that information in such a medium that it reaches to the stakeholders, to the people who are going to be affected or potentially going to be affected in a most efficient manner and also in real time. So time and effectiveness of communication of information would be of critical essence. And that would be my request to both NIDM and the divisions. And this has to be actually brought about through a very elaborate consultative process that must be iterative, because it cannot be a one-off consultation. My request will be, because this is a learning phase for both of us, both for NIDM and the ministry people also. We are not experts of communications, but we are repository of good information. Likewise, NIDM is expert in reaching to the people in the most correct manner. So unless we interact with each other on a regular basis, so that good information is able to reach to the stakeholders, to the people who are going to be affected, or the people who are concerned with that, in timely manner and in the most efficient manner, the medium and the time. That would be of critical essence. Okay. So this is my short advice at the moment. I would request Hemant that Major General Bindal has pointed out a very, very pertinent point, that the person who is going to be nominated as a nodal officer from the divisions have to be the right person, and they would be the most critical link for this whole national plan. So my request to you will be that you please consult all the divisional heads individually, make a office order, yeah, get it approved by the honorable minister or the secretary, that these will be the nodal persons, and then all the 47 divisions must be represented. So that's very important. It should not be like it should be a choice. It's an imperative. All the 47 divisions must be represented in this plan, and all the 47 divisions must be interacting continuously. And as has been requested by NIDM, that person should be on a permanent basis in that division, with whom a permanent kind of a contact has to be built. And this is very essential because this is a new subject. We are also unaware of many of the facets which NIDM is expert. NIDM will also be learning a lot of things here from us. So that interaction has to be continuous. That interaction has to be permanent. Yeah. With these few words, I offer my best wishes for today's workshop, and hope that this plan of Ministry of Environment would be not only the best amongst all the ministries in India, but for the forest and environment sector, it could be one of the models for the whole world. And we are actually very keen to offer, guided by our Honorable Prime Minister, we are very keen to offer our expertise in this regard to other countries in the world. So this plan will actually be a harbinger of a new type of relationship with other countries as well. So thank you very much, and once again, very best wishes to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for very insightful advice, and which could be guiding light for us when we are going to develop this plan. Thank you very much, sir. Now we will move to thematic and presentations, which will be made by NIDM team. First, I invite Dr. Sushma Guleria, Assistant Professor NIDM. She will talk about issues in developing disaster risk resilience, which is a very important topic. And I request Dr. Sushma Guleria to present.
Thank you so much, Hemanji. Very warm good morning to all the senior delegates, colleagues, and other participants. Hemanji,
so in the meantime, I will sign off. In the meantime, I will sign off because I have to attend a very important meeting with the Attorney General. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for gracing the occasion. Thank you.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, this will be just the basics would be just a humble beginning for this new endeavor between MOEFCC and the National Institute of Disaster Management. All the aspects of the disaster management plan would be weaved in and around some of the aspects of this disaster management slides that we have here. Just a reiteration, and not to forget that the virus is still around us. So please keep your masks properly wear. Wash your hands with soap and water. Avoid touching eyes, nose, mouth, especially while you're in your office premises. Maintain social distance as far as possible and clean your surfaces regularly. So with these, I'll just move forward. As was pointed out by Sanjay sir, we need to weave a lot of our plannings and strategies around the hazards that are present, otherwise also in the system, be it the natural ones or the human-induced aspects. But when we talk from a planning perspective and management perspective, then we need to keep in mind that there can be single events. There can be one primary hazard that can pose a threat as a source for converting into a disaster situation. The primary hazard can trigger a secondary event, and you can have a second disaster followed by the primary disaster. Like, for example, say an earthquake in an urban place may trigger another event of a fire from a short circuit in the buildings around. So it can be a secondary event, and sometimes it also leads to a tertiary impact as well. So there can be primary, secondary, tertiary events taking places like how the tsunami was generated in March 2011 and the Japan coast was the primary. Then, it impacted, caused flood, inundation, required tremendous evacuations as the secondary event. And then, they were not prepared for what actually became their main concern was how the nuclear plant got impacted because of that primary event. So we have to keep in mind when we are going in for planning that you have one hazard triggering multiple events, or it could be one hazard just causing a single disaster situation. These permutation combinations would keep differing, considering the kind of geomorphology, the topography, the way the Indian country is present. These are the basic hazards around which most of the disaster events take place, as was highlighted by the high-powered committee established in 1999. So it could be water and climate related, events that can lead to some disasters, common ones being floods, cyclones, hailstorms, cloudburst, heat and cold waves, and likewise. The second category is the geology-based disasters. Third is the chemical, industrial, nuclear. Fourth are some of the very prominent ones are accident-related, like festival-related disasters, air, road, rail accidents, boat capsizing, fire incidences, urban and mine flooding, etc. And the current pandemic is, it's just brought to the notice and has, highlighted how biological-related disasters are also a major concern for globally also otherwise, and epidemics, endemics, and pandemics are one of the categories. Pest attacks, cattle epidemics, and food poisoning. And if you can just recollect, some time back there was this the incidence of pest attack that had, kind of impacted the North India belt. And the backdrop was your pandemics happening. Then you also had flooding events and incessant rainfalls happening across various states in the country. We saw a couple of small intensity cyclones, impacting some of the states. And likewise, there were fire incidences, there were incidences of gas leakages, there were incidences of other natural and human-based activities that were happening. So that's what I was just trying to say, that you need to consider a multi-hazard scenario and weave your planning and management strategies around the same. So as and when any of these hazards come in contact with your vulnerabilities, and what we would be also trying to identify some of the capacities that are present with us, the risk of getting converted these hazards into disaster scenarios may or may not happen. So it's around them that you have your disasters falling in. It could be a simple small events, or it could be some large events, maybe sudden, maybe something that is progressive in nature, like the pandemic is going on for a long time. You have droughts that it takes time for the droughts to set in, to have the realization that a drought scenario has set, and it has impacted not just your crops and subsequently the social aspect around it. So some of the impacts, how it impacts your livelihoods, which leads to direct and indirect economic losses at individual levels, at the state or district levels, and as well as at the national levels. Environmental damage, flora and fauna. One of the classic examples are the tsunami of 2004, where Andaman and Nicobar Islands were impacted very severely. And needless to say, we also harp about the importance of how preserving these flora and fauna is very important, because it's really a challenge to give an accounting or a valuation to the species, maybe endemic or even otherwise, which we lose to such disaster situations. So that's a challenge. So it's important to have the biodiversity conservation as an important aspect. Another impact is the sociological or psychological impacts that sits in. And again, I'm quoting the example of the current pandemic situation, which has highlighted a steep rise actually in the number of suicides. That's, of course, you would attribute it to a lot of other maybe reasons, but then it could be, you lose your job, and then because of this, the pandemic, you lose your job, and then, slowly the depression sets in, and you might succumb to such a adverse step. And another important of why psychological impacts need to be interweaved is because these are some of the impacts that are not visible very prominently. So post any disaster situation, when you are into the response and relief phase, when you're trying to manage that situation, you would see a lot of chaos, you would see a lot of destruction in terms of lives and livelihoods and infrastructure. But the mental impact, it takes a lot of time to understand and analyze and bring it out. So that also makes it important to keep this into account. Again, this is it's a reality. It's a reality that is set in, and then there are incidences around a lot of natural hazards and also around a lot of disasters that have been occurring of late, which are attributed to the changes in your climate or weather patterns. So places which were known to be severely drought prone are turning flood prone, like the Rajasthan floods of 2006 are a grim reminder to this reality. And then because you did not have a history of such flooding scenarios in Rajasthan, especially some parts of Rajasthan at that year, you do not wish to be prepared for such events, and that led to a lot of losses. Karnataka saw drought in 2016, almost 10 to 12 states, districts, and by the time the assessments were to be taken, these districts turned flood prone. So likewise, so there are a lot of places where you would see sudden rainfalls, and even in this time of the year, we are some of the states down south are experiencing heavy rainfalls, so which is very unlikely. Some of the cyclones of late, and to name the most important one is the Fani of 2018. That was one of the very prominent, intense super cyclones. And the timing of this cyclone Fani was actually not when you see the Odisha coast experiences such a cyclonic event. So these are grim reminders that how your east west coast is equally getting prone to heavy winds and cyclonic activities. That puts into risk a lot of your ecosystems and people. So there will be different challenges across different paths. So Himalayas would have a different, concern altogether of the glacier melting, and the coastline would have a different concern of the sea level rise and extreme weather events affecting them. Across the cropping belt, you would see how the crop production and crop growth would be impacted by changes in the monsoons, and likewise. Similarly, you would, like I had mentioned about the cyclonic disturbances, changes in the annual precipitation rates. So you might have lower frequency of rainfall, so you might have an increase in that. It would impact your, the infrastructure and the livelihood, the lifestyles that we are all leading to. So the heat spell is going to increase over the years because, again, attributed to these changes. So that means your entire, the way we are, our lifestyles are set in, that would require some changes because the spells would be longer. So you'll have more of heat waves durations. And that would have impacts on the availability of water from various sources. The forests and other natural resource belts would have impacts separately. The biodiverse zones would have the impacts separately. With mutations occurring, and with the a lot of your microbes getting adapting to the changes in the climate and weather patterns, your health impacts would also differ. And like agriculture productivity, which I had earlier also mentioned, it would impact. These are some of the current realities, and we have also had these things set in from the past itself. So in context to India, initially, we did not have any particular or specific policy with respect to disaster management. It eventually came out in 2009, the first policy. Attitude was that it is, Kudrat ka keher hai, it's the wrath of nature. Interventions were more, limited to relief only. A few prominent events like the Latur earthquake of 1993. And the importance of the Latur earthquake was that at that time, Latur was not considered in any of the intense seismic zones. So it wasn't actually prepared to face such a big earthquake. And that is how Latur was impacted. There were deaths of more than 10,000 people. So this also makes it important that there might be certain hazards which you're aware of, which the history of the places speak, and there might be some new additions to it. So your planning needs to keep into consideration some presumptions as well. The Orissa super cyclone of 99, the Gujarat earthquake of 2001, and then the subsequent new event, the new entry of tsunami 2004, that led to highlighting some of the gaps that we had in the country with respect to disaster management. We did not have any scientific presence of any kind of hazard risk vulnerability mappings. Early warning systems were inadequate or not up to the mark. Environmental degradations were happening. Relief, heavy dependency on relief was going on. New developmental projects were creating disasters or providing an opportunity is a subject of debate. But nonetheless, we can add that, of course, your developmental activities might, have some impact on rising or increasing the number of hazards that you have. So a need was felt for a revamping, and then the government appointed a high power committee about which I had just mentioned, and they had identified about approximately 33 different kind of hazards around which the country is prone to getting impacted or getting converted into different disaster scenarios. The idea or the approach was to have a holistic management plan, and that is how in 2005 the Disaster Management Act was put into place. This is the realm of the disaster management, and you divide it into the pre and post. Around some of these areas only your plannings would be built up based on collecting and gathering, collating all the informations and data from all the different departments of the ministry as well. So in the pre-disaster scenario, please remember, you deal with the approaching hazards. You first try and prevent them. If that's not possible all the times, you try and mitigate them through structural or non-structural measures, and you're always in a state of readiness to deal with that situation. Two important aspects: early warnings and temporary evacuations. They sound simple. They call for a lot of planning. They call for a lot of strategies to be roped in. The cyclone Fani saw an evacuation need for more than 12 lakh people. So, just imagine the burden on the district administration to evacuate 12 lakh people and moving them to safe shelter sites. And that is a challenge. Likewise, the Uttarakhand floods of 2013, that was one of the most difficult airlifted, response disaster event, where more than 1,20,000 people were airlifted to safe zones, and that it was really difficult. It was a complete hilly terrain. So there are challenges across, these initiatives also. And once these hazards or these approaching hazard event, a single event or multiple, they convert into a disaster situation. You need to respond to that situation. You need to build upon the temporary restoration activities for smooth search and rescue and for smooth conduct of relief operations. And in the long term, you go in for the recovery through reconstruction. That is, build back better. We always harp and advocate for the build back better perspective to be roped in, so that what you can do here is, in the build back better scenario, you can integrate some of the structural mitigation measures, so that your infrastructure it becomes more strengthened. And the rehabilitation measures are weaving job opportunities, livelihood, alternative livelihood opportunities to be provided to the people who have suffered such an injury. Again, these require a lot of brainstorming, a lot of stakeholders to be brought into the same platform, and then design upon these rehabilitation and reconstruction measures. Tsunami in Kadalur, it's one of the districts in Tamil Nadu. A very beautiful Japanese technology was introduced of very semi-cylindrical kind of houses for the fishermen post tsunami. And they said that these are very safe, and they are on the wheels. They are created on wheels, so the fishermen can move the houses to safer zones if there is a storm surge or some kind of intense winds. But none of these houses were occupied because they were not to the taste of the living styles or lifestyles of the fishermen communities. So it also calls in that the actual people, the departments, the respective departments or places for whom you are designing such facilities their adequate participation is also required. Likewise, if you talk about livelihood opportunities, what kind of an opportunity would you design for a farmer who has lost his land to maybe salinating risk because of continuous saline water entering his farm fields, and the fields not being in a position to be used for agriculture or any other production for a couple of years? So that's the kind of thought process you need to weave in around such opportunities. This is how the scenario of the country, the framework looks like for disaster management. The Act makes it compulsory that the country has a national disaster management plan in place. The last one was updated in 2019. The first national plan was prepared in 2016. Each state needs to develop their state disaster management plan to be vetted by the National Disaster Management Authority. And each district needs to have their district disaster management plans in places to be vetted by their respective state disaster management authorities. Likewise, each ministry, line departments should have their respective, maybe some sort of a contingency plans or respective disaster management plans in places. That's been made mandatory, and that's perhaps one of the reasons why you and I are here. And you have a lot of these support systems, as is seen in the slide, which are present. These are our capacities and resources which can be utilized for emergencies. Coming to what the term DRR would denote, that is being, why we are using or emphasizing on DRR, and earlier we used to talk about DRM approach, is if you look at this slide. So, if you look at the post-disaster initiatives and measures of response, restoration, search and rescue, they are mostly the management part of things. So that's like how you used to work on disaster management aspects. But now, that was something which was being talked about during the Hyogo framework of action, for which India was also signatory. And that was initiatives or steps taken for good management strategies of disasters between 2005 to 2015. When the countries who were signatories to the Hyogo framework, when they again assembled in Sendai in Japan in 2015, they realized that the need was to have more preventive or preparedness approach. There was a need to safeguard your infrastructure, your property as well, along with lives. We attribute the success of any particular disaster or that management of that particular disaster event to life saving. And needless to say, India has really done well in that aspect. So now it is why not have focus and emphasis on safeguarding your infrastructure also. And to begin with, the two emphasis is on critical infrastructures, the hospitals, school buildings, and some of the critical lifeline structures to be saved. So your emphasis in Sendai, when the Sendai framework of 2015 was designed, the emphasis is on prevention, mitigation, and preparedness. So that is how you talk about the DRR part of it. So whenever we say disaster risk reduction, we are trying to minimize the risks associated with the generation of those disasters. So that's the idea of moving from a disaster risk management approach to a more a better approach of disaster risk reduction. So you try and strengthen the capacities that are present in a disaster prone community, and you try and address some of the hazards through mitigational measures which are present in that community. So you look at those specific areas as single units. The challenges are also how you do not ignore or not ignore, you are ignorant about the fact that there are vulnerable sections, and you need to mainstream them also in your plannings. So even if it's your office premises, even if it's a village, even if it's a ministry unit established in an outskirt or in an urban area, you would have a mixture of different vulnerable population at any given point of time. So that needs to be addressed and mainstreamed. This also becomes a challenge, how good the basic hazard risk vulnerability capacity information, the data is collated. So one is your history will help you get those informations. And two, which I had mentioned earlier also, please make a lot of presumptions of, if you have 3 hazards present and you have made a permutation combination of 6 events, then there is a probability that in near future, with a lot of other combinations, this might turn into 9 different scenarios. So that kind of simulation perception also needs to go into your planning. So this forms the base for the planning that we will work on. And then that planning is for implementing and for the specifically for structural measures, for structural building, you need to have the right HRVC analysis done so that the correct mitigational measures can be designed and suggested. Definitely, whatever plan that you design, and this sounds simple again, but you need to do a small test and have always a scope for mock drills to be integrated. Maybe you can have separate mock drills of just evacuation, just a fire alarm, or an overall, otherwise also whether the plan that you have prepared overall to see how well it has been built, and if there are any coordination gaps, or if still there is more scope for inclusion of other disaster scenarios to be built in. So any kind of a mock drill scenario situation would help you do that assessment well. Funding, definitely not just at the larger entity level, but sometimes even for smaller activities of making changes in terms of if some structural aspects are to be done, or in terms of capacity building, awareness generation aspects, department specific, maybe overall as a ministry. So you need to look for scope for fundings, and that the planning, not just for the people present in the these respective ministries or office departments, but it has to reach ultimately to each family level of the respective population that is present in a given ministry. This is something I was just an example from this current year itself. So you have Amphan that caused a lot of havoc in West Bengal this year, and the question that I need to put for pondering is, how would you maintain the social distancing with the pandemic at your backdrop, in the cyclone site, in the shelter sites? So until 2020, or the coronavirus sitting in, it was easier. The emphasis was on having more and more shelters. Super cyclone of Odisha of 1999 had seen just about 20-25 shelters across the coastal belt of Odisha. And by the time Fani happened, or Phylin happened in 2013, Odisha almost has about more than 800 plus cyclone shelters. And that too, they are located in very strategically safer zones for people to move. But now you have a new additional challenge of how you would be maintaining a social distancing with the pandemic backdrop. So that's how we need to, the challenges need to be integrated. And this is a prerequisite. So we are a signatory to the Sendai framework, the Sendai framework for 2015, and we have targets set up to be achieved until 2030. So you have priorities of understanding risks, strengthening governance for better management of risk, investing in resilience building, and the concept of build back better, which I had mentioned earlier. You have, as a ministry, there are other related targets also weaved around that. As a MOFCC, you also have a lot of natural resource management, a lot of conservation conventions and other treaties signed in, even with respect to the human-induced aspects, waste management, or like we were mentioning and talking about pollution and likewise. So the natural and human-induced aspects, a lot of your acts, bylaws, which are all present. So the need is to weave the sustainable development goals, the Sendai framework targets and priorities that are set in, the MOFCC's own, maybe set of targets and the projects that you're working on, and with a backdrop of different hazards turning into disaster situations. So I'll end on this note that you need, it's the perception with which we all would be working. So you can look at a disaster to set back your development, or you can also look at a disaster providing us an opportunity for better development. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sushma. Thank you for giving a brief overview of disasters as well as disaster management in India. Now I invite Professor Anil Kumar Gupta, and he will talk about the ministry-specific aspects of the disaster management plan, and he will share the experience that NIDM has with other ministries like agriculture. And NIDM has a disaster management plan for Ministry of Agriculture, and and hopefully we will learn the lessons from the earlier exercises and develop this ministry's plans in an efficient and more comprehensive manner. So over to you, Dr. Gupta. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meena, and thank you, my colleague, Dr. Sushma Guleria, for giving an introductory background of disaster resilience and also the issues that how the MOEF, the working context and business of MOEF is relevant for disaster risk reduction also. And I'm really very happy to see the participants. Many of the participants are known to me. Even some of the participants I see that who have previously worked with me for their research, and so this is really a very interesting occasion to talk. I am using a PowerPoint presentation here. I have shared a PowerPoint. Is it visible now? रिचा ना पावरपॉइंट दिख रहा है क्या अभी आगे
अभी नहीं आगे सर नाउ इट्स विजिबल या
हाँ अच्छा रिचा आपके पास वो है मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर का जो हमारा फ्रेमवर्क वाला पिक्चर तो वो आप उसमें शेयर कर दीजिए चैट में
ओके सर ठीक है
हाँ सिर्फ पिक्चर वो शेयर कर दीजिए चैट में हाँ बिकॉज आई डिड नॉट इंक्लूड दैट हाँ सिर्फ फ्रेमवर्क वाला ठीक है So once again, I welcome each one of the member here on board, and this is a journey together. This is a journey together. Initially for 6 months for developing the plan, then for next few months for getting it reviewed, finalizing it, and then also developing a training toolkit and also a knowledge compendium. Because the plan is not sufficient, its execution requires a lot of competency and capacity building, and also a knowledge support system to be established. So that is why the Ministry of Environment and Forest and NIDM together thought that let's work together closely. Otherwise, also we have been working closely on this. And on the lines of the Ministry of Agriculture's disaster management plan. Now, the MOEF's disaster management plan, also we can call it EFC DMP, Environment, Forest, Climate Disaster Management Plan. So that will be the disaster management plan of the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Just some background that if we look at the previous data, we find that the disasters are a serious impediment to our the economy and to the lives and to various kind of properties. If we look at the economic damage, that 1.5 trillions, that economic damage was assessed during 10 years period. And if we are looking at the recent trends of the disasters, we find that more than 70% of the disasters are related with climate and water globally. And the same set of trend we find in India also. And very interestingly, the impact of these climate-related disasters in developing countries, the 20%, 25% of the negative impacts is limited to certain specific sectors. For example, forestry, crop, livestock, fisheries, and other related ecosystems. But I would say that the real impact goes much more than this, because there are a number of other sectors which depend on various ecosystem services. For example, now the tourism sector heavily depends on the ecosystem services. Even various other kind of interventions. Even the recent experience of dealing with heat wave, we found that industries also suffer a lot because of the extreme heats during summers, particularly in southern India. So these kind of things are also now emerging. Now, what are the context for discussing disaster management plan and its approach, and what gave us a way to develop this kind of a framework for a disaster management plan? So one is the Disaster Management Act that was passed in 2005, and then this Disaster Management Policy of 2009. And actually, that immediately after the Uttarakhand major disaster that took place in 2013, many of us would recall that the National Green Tribunal directed Government of India to develop its National Disaster Management Plan, which was pending by then, and also to take serious measures to curb down the ecologically driven background for generating this kind of disaster scenarios. And even the Government of India's Parliamentary Committee on Disaster Management that also gave impetus to that. And I'm happy that I was part of the development of National Disaster Management Plan under the directive of under the chairmanship of the Union Home Secretary, who is the chair of the National Executive Committee on Disaster Management. So first draft came in 2013. Then in between, Sendai framework came, and then before finalizing and before getting it approved by the Honorable Prime Minister, we remodified it in the lines of framework. Agriculture one. We modified it on the lines of Sendai framework because India is a party to Sendai framework, along with the other two international frameworks called as Paris Climate Agreement and SDGs. Then NDMA, which is the apex authority of Government of India, chaired by the Honorable Prime Minister, which issues guidelines for various kind of disasters and also various processes. So NDMA has issued guidelines for preparation of the ministry's disaster management plan. Also, they issued a template. They have circulated a template, but template is not sacrosanct. Template is just a guideline. Template gives an idea because every ministry's business is different. So the disaster management plan of the Ministry of Steel will be little different from disaster management plan of agriculture, or the disaster management plan of the textile ministries will be having little more difference with the disaster management plan of the Ministry of Social Justice or Ministry of Education. So we have to look that under the broad template given by NDMA, how we contextualize our own information and our own endeavors. Then those endeavors have to be drawn based on the business transaction allocated to the ministry under the business transaction rules of Government of India. Then we also have to see that which are the policies and legislations which the concerned ministry is dealing with. For example, a Ministry of Environment and Forest is custodian for implementing a number of legislations related with environment, natural resources, but also directly or indirectly contributes to a number of other developmental aspects. For example, the clearance process for major projects and ICZM. Then now even the River Conservation Directorate has been shifted to other ministry, but still there are strong linkages. Then the issues related with wetlands, and then it has linkages with the urban issues also. So we have to see all these kind of things also. Then the headquarter, how the ministry serves as headquarter, are the nodal ministry for various treaties, and how those the subject of those treaties are associated with any kind of disaster risk. So we have to see that international commitments of Government of India as well as where the MOEFCC is responsible. Then various research findings that give us some good ideas that how environment and disasters are linked, and how we have to safeguard the business of Environment Ministry from the impact of disasters, but otherwise also on the other side how the environment management will reduce the risk of disasters. And coming to this point, which Sushma also touched upon, that there is a very, very significant change in our thought process of disasters. For a quite long time, we have been response and relief oriented. So the disaster management was actually trying to manage the disaster. Now the things are entirely changed. As Sushma also referred, that now the focus is on disaster risk reduction. We are trying to work on risk rather than actually on disasters. We need not to wait for disasters, and we work on hazards and vulnerability. And that is the important thing, that that it brings a lot of integration of climate change adaptation regime, integration of land use issues, integration of a lot more sustainable development goals and targets. And this thing, therefore, the Honorable Prime Minister, he has given his experience. He has summarized his experience of dealing with major disasters while he was Chief Minister, and then as the country's Prime Minister. 10-point agenda while he inaugurated the 7th ASEAN Ministerial Conference. Incidentally, it was 7th ASEAN Ministerial Conference, but it was the first ASEAN Ministerial Conference after the Sendai Framework. So very interestingly, there are other issues like the flagship program. For example, we have National Action Plan on Climate Change. That is the flagship program of Government of India on dealing with the climate change, mitigation and adaptation issues, which has initially 9 missions, now 3 more added on waste to energy, then coastal mission, and also a health mission. Just to inform you that recently we have prepared the National Health Adaptation Plan also for Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, as we are designated as the Center of Excellence on Climate Resilience under the National Climate Change Mission on Health also. So, and we are also contributing to the NICRA program, that is National Initiative for Climate Resilient Agriculture, supporting Ministry of Agriculture. So the issues related with the second green revolution, where we are focusing more on sustainable agriculture, eco-friendly agricultural practices. So those are all also kind of important dimensions. But very important information to share that environment sector, when we say environment sector, we have been discussing with the UN agencies also that environment sector is actually a kind of a misnomer, because it is a sector of a number of sectors. We cannot separate water, we cannot separate crops, we cannot separate forests, we cannot separate so many things. And that is the reason the preparation of the disaster management plan of Environment and Forests and Climate Change Ministry would have a lot of great experiences, that how to limit to the business of the ministry, but also maintain relationship with other sectors being dealt by other institutions or other ministries, because those interlinkages would also be important. Just a glimpse that we organize this conference, and Ministry of Environment, Forests, very senior officials of additional secretary level, they also participated in this program, which was inaugurated and chaired by Dr. P.K. Mishra, who is one of the leading experts on disaster management. This is these are the 10 points of the Prime Minister's Agenda 10. And here the point 1 directly relates with the preparation of disaster management plan of the ministry. But it also has a lot of other insights. For example, the point 5, that is leverage technology for disaster management. When we say technology, so we are also looking at the biotechnology and eco-technology, how the eco-technologies are useful for landslide risk mitigation, coastal protection, Himalayan slope protection, and so on and so forth. For example, the protection against drought and floods in our cities. So, and then develop a network of universities. Ministry of Environment and Forests is also has established a number of academic institutions which are at par with the universities and institutions. How those will be the part of this the national network to contribute towards disaster risk management. Then also looking at build local capacities and initiatives. So how we are looking at the ecosystem services at local level to contribute toward disaster risk management. Then also ensure the opportunity to learn from disaster is not wasted. For example, recent cyclone Fani, we all know how the impact of cyclone Fani on the Chilka Lake was there, and and this particular cyclone, severe damage to the forest ecosystem has been realized, and even the recent cyclones and other things also. I will be showing a glimpse of that also. Now coming to the summary points of the relationship between environment and disasters, which is a kind of a fundamental line of thought for the background towards this process of developing national environment, forest, and climate change disaster management plan. More than 70% of the global land use is still comprised of agriculture, forestry, and other ecosystems. And there are 4 types of relationships between environment and disasters. Number 1, environment or ecological degradation is known to aggravate hazards and also to increase disaster vulnerability. Disaster vulnerability is many times related with the landscape, that is physical vulnerability, liquefaction, that contributes to the generation of the landslides, are aggravating the impact of earthquakes. Then increasing the poverty, reducing the per capita income or per capita power purchasing, And here the three type of environmental changes are to be looked into: that land use changes, climate change, and natural resource degradation. So, and all these are contributing to disaster risk and vulnerability. But on the other hand, it is also an important point, as also mentioned very rightly by Sanjay sir, DG sir, Shri Special Secretary Shri Sanjay Kumar ji, that the disasters cause severe losses and damage to the ecological services and ecological systems. For example, it affects landscape. It affects then, because of the huge amount of the waste and debris generation during disasters. Then pollution in the form of disasters are disasters causing pollution. And then whenever there are major flooding, then you do not have any kind of effective waste treatment solutions, or waste segregation or waste management, and then there are severe challenges. Then destruction of the ecosystems and deforestation. So during any kind of cyclone, if we see that the huge uprooting of the trees in the orchard, plants, plantations, forests, these kind of things are there. Then these kind of disruption also results into the loss of our efforts or our success towards carbon sequestration. We put in a lot of money, we put in a lot of investment in increasing our carbon sequestration potential, but one disaster caused a lot of setback to our efforts. So how it will be related with our the efforts of on the climate change mitigation, and also as well as the adaptation, risk and other things will also come here. And overall, looking at that, how it diminishes the ecosystem services to people. The third aspect is environment and climate action efforts are compromised during disasters. For example, we have seen during coronavirus pandemic also, Uttarakhand disasters also, Chennai flood also, any other kind of major disasters, that no priority can be given, because the priority is saving life of the people. So no priority is usually given to the eco-friendly response and relief, and lot of plastic materials, and then it affects the hydrological regime, and it causes lot of other environmental degradation, leading to the future risks of disasters, future risk of new, or they even aggravating the disaster risk. Then on the other hand, sometimes for developing alternative emergency evacuation routes, sometimes the forests are cut without thought process that how it is going to affect in the long term, because that time the priority is to save the life of the people. And then during reconstruction projects also, if the reconstruction projects do not have the concept of eco-sustainability, so those are the issues. Recently we have been working with government of Uttarakhand in promoting the eco-friendliness in the post-disaster reconstruction and recovery framework, so that kind of things will also be good insight for developing this plan. Then the fourth dimension is environment and ecological management plays significant role in addressing hazards, reducing vulnerability, and thus reducing disasters. And the last point that is also very important input for all of us, that there are a number of significant and very, very maturely developed environmental policy instruments. For example, the process of environmental impact assessment, process of the clearance for developmental and industrial projects, then life cycle assessment, strategic environmental assessment, though not in practice in India, but we have to see that how it can play significant roles, particularly towards disaster risk reduction. Then auditing protocols, then footprints, and now currently we are working for adaptation standards also, where I am also a member. Then integrated coastal zone management kind of things. So these tools help us in the process of not reinventing the wheel, because recently past 3 years we have been talking and working about a new tool called disaster impact assessment. And then when we discuss with entrepreneurs, so it appears that it will be additional burden to the entrepreneurs or the developers. So we are now trying to look at that how it can be integrated into current EIA mechanisms, so that it should become an implicit but important component, and that can serve the purpose. Then sustainable development goals, directly or indirectly contributing to disaster risk reduction from various dimensions of hazard and vulnerability. Then this definition, it's very important to show, because it very clearly spells out the term environment, and it talks of substantial loss of life. When it says life, it doesn't say human life. It has a broad definition. So life includes animal life also, and I would say that it will include even microbial life also, and then human suffering, then damage and destruction of property, environment. So the Disaster Management Act clearly gives a kind of a very significant consideration of environmental damage as to be recognized as disasters. And the recent coronavirus pandemic also has been dealt as a disaster in our country. Most of us must be aware of this. And this is a picture showing the relationship between disaster management, environment management, and climate change impact. So there is a kind of a integrated relationship between all the three, and those cannot be separated. And that is why I am sharing some of the lessons of the recent disasters that took place during this coronavirus 19 pandemic period itself. We had two major cyclones. One was a super cyclone and a kind of a rare event, and we had a number of industrial accidents. And most of the industrial accidents, if you find that those has implications for the ecosystem, the quality, and the ecosystem services also. For example, Assam gas and oil plant explosion, Vishakhapatnam gas leak. And this is how the cyclone Amphan has affected and jeopardized a number of ecosystem services. It is shown through the maps also, and then how the marine ecosystem got exposed to the impact, and a lot of devastations took place. And that, but on the other hand, we've seen a lot of changes in the biodiversity during this coronavirus pandemic period also, but that is also a matter of subject. But on the other hand, though I had discussed about the waste generation issues, waste management issues during disasters, during this coronavirus pandemic period also, a different kind of waste got generated in huge quantity, that is the biomedical waste. And that is the reason Ministry of Environment, Forest and CPCB was required to issue a specific guideline for dealing with this kind of waste. So that is also a lesson that how the disaster waste, and I have been discussing, I had some meeting with the previous chairman of the Central Pollution Control Board also, that we need to work on some dimensions of disaster waste management, so that should not generate, that should not add to the future disaster risk also. Just sharing some information. I have deliberately removed the data here. I am not showing the Indian example, but showing that the kind of waste that is generated because of disasters or during disasters. This is showing just a Katrina case. Other glimpses that how the ecosystems are affected during disasters. Like cyclone Amphan, how it is affected the agroecological systems. Then locust attack, that was also a disaster. Why I am showing all these disasters? Because the disaster management plan of the Ministry of Environment, Forest, Climate Change would also be a multi-hazard disaster. It will cover all geological, all hydrological, all man-made disasters, and including accidents also. So it will be multi-hazard disaster. So it will also cover that how the ecological functions, biodiversity, and all kind of ecological systems got affected. This is showing the track of that the kind of a locust attack, how it affected a number of ecological services to people and our prosperity. Then just showing some timeline of few months, that how one by one this number of disasters has been affecting, and very interestingly, most of these disasters affected water bodies. So that is also one of the concern that we will consider here, and that will also be an insight when we'll discuss about the disaster management plan of this. Then this is the picture of Assam gas leak, then Assam floods, then wildfire. We had the major wildfire also this year, and wildfire now becoming even more serious. 2015 itself, it was major catastrophe. So now we are talking about that how the business continuity resilience integrates sustainability, how the integrated environment and disaster crisis management has to be in place. And then the new regimes where at the global level, United Nations Environment Program and IUCN, which are the players for which MOEF is also the nodal ministry, which is the focal point. The MOEF is the focal point for these agencies. And I have been directly associated with this initiative since beginning. That is the ecosystem approach to DRR. And now we have a more technical term that is called the national nature-based solutions. So how the nature-based solutions are useful for developing redundancy to protect the infrastructure, protect our cities, livelihood, health, food, economy. And then the dimension like how the relief and response, disaster relief and recovery mechanisms, there we have the carbon neutrality. We assure that those have the concept of green disaster response or the carbon neutrality in disaster response. So these kind of things are also there that we are discussing. Then while we will be discussing about various assets and property associated with the Ministry of Environment and Forests, we will also have the context, the concept of interdependency of various infrastructure systems and how systems depend on each other. So that is important. For example, water is the critical for hydropower power plants. So how various ministries will be having some kind of linkages when we talk of the critical infrastructure. Now this picture is also very important because, as Sushma was also referring about the risk management. So risk management about dealing with a particular incident, but resilience is about developing a mechanism of competency building to deal with all kind of shock events and extreme events. So that is important. But now we have a broader gamut where we are talking about that how we ensure the disaster resiliency or the risk management efficiency, but not for the current generation, but for the future generations, because we are shortly going to be replaced by the next generation. So this disaster management plan for the sector should also look at the known disasters, but also not the unknown kind of situations. And for that we call it kind of a black swan events like the coronavirus pandemic and these kind of things also. And recently, NDMA has also issued a circular that all the ministries, while they develop their disaster management plan, will incorporate the issues related to pandemic also. So these are new lessons. Now, locust attack is also kind of a new lesson, that the major catastrophic. Just showing a glimpse that how the environmental services are important in urban disaster resilience. Just land use changes, how the wetlands got vanished in a city, and then a 2015 major catastrophic flood that city witnessed. But just next year, next to it, it faced a major water scarcity and major drought. So that is not the scene of only one city. Several cities in the country are having this kind of situation. So how the wetland related issues will come into picture, then how the EIA related issues will come into picture. And the MOEF is custodian for EIA. This is the glimpse of our policy paper that was published by the United Nations Environment Program. And here we are looking at that how EIA will have a multi-pronged role. As on date, we are thinking that EIA plays only one role, that is in the clearance mechanism or the kind of a the project approval process. But EIA has several other dimensions, so we will be looking at that also, that how that tool will provide more and more beneficial uses for disaster resilience and risk management. Then other context, PM Agenda 10, I already discussed. Then Disaster Management Act, Section 35, that talks that what are the roles of various ministries, 36, 35, 36, 37. These three sections of the disaster management are giving direct insights for the role of ministries, like the role of ministries should comprise of prevention, mitigation, and preparedness to disaster, to review the policies, law, rules, and regulations to integrate provisions of disaster prevention, mitigation, and preparedness. Whereas 37.1 delineates that manner the ministry shall draw its plan. So plan will include prevention and mitigation, integration of disaster risk management into development plans. When we say development plans, so all the business plan of the ministry and programs, all the flagship programs being dealt by the ministry, and preparedness and capacity building, financial provisions, roles and responsibilities, all that. So that is very important. These are just the kind of three major divisions: the administration division, environment division, and the forest division of Ministry of Environment and Forest. So this will also see that the differential roles of each and every department, then particular division, that roles and responsibility of the divisions also, and then the business allocated to particular divisions also, part of the business allocated to particular division. So, and that this will be the kind of a scope of plan. The plan will be multi-hazard. Plan will have a multi-layer approach. So it will also have a kind of a thing. I'm sorry, here still agriculture system is written. I missed to replace it with the environment and forest management system. Kindly read it like that. So it will have a multi-layer approach. So we will ensure that we are taking adequate care of disaster risk management issues at the national level, but will ensure that it has linkages with the ground level. So it will also have the linkage at the roles and responsibilities of the state governments and UT governments, and also will have the linkages at the district and even sub-district level. So the if impact of the effective management of disaster risk at the national level should be realized at the ground level, and there will be a two-way feedback process also will be integrated into that. Then all aspects of environment, forest, and climate change, as I already discussed in the earlier discussions. Then allocation of business to the ministry. Then infrastructure and resources. So this will include infrastructure and establishments, all the institutions under the Ministry of Environment and Forest, people who are associated. So when we say people, so all the people who are associated with the institutions within the ministry. Under the ministry are its subordinate organizations, its attached offices, its the institutions. Are now they have some deemed universities kind of things also. Then there is a number of center of excellence which are working with Ministry of Environment and Forest. So that also, the institutions which are associated with the NAPCC missions also. Then associated with the mandates of MOEFCC, Department of Environment, Forest, and other interdependence with other sectors, other ministries. So that will be a kind of a, we'll have to do some kind of a mapping. So that will be part of the process. Then it will also be in synergy and scope of the business transaction already discussed, and blend of descriptive and prescriptive. This is very important, because when I say that it will have the ground linkage also, does not mean that we are going to prepare the disaster management plan of environment department at the state level or the sub district level or something. It will be a national plan, but it will have the linkages. It will give the clear prescription. For example, if there is an institution under Ministry of Environment and Forest, for example, IFM or Forest or TFRI or the FRI campus, and are the Botanical Survey of India, Geological Survey of India, all are the constituents of Ministry of Environment and Forest. All will be required to prepare a disaster management plan. But this plan will not be preparing the disaster management plan for the constituents, but it will giving a template or the guideline to prepare disaster management plan for those constituent units. That is why a nodal agency, a nodal officer has to be there from there, and that will be a kind of a follow-up action. Now, Ministry of Agriculture disaster management plan has been prepared. Now, IRI, the CRIDA, the institute that is in Jabalpur, and so many other institutions, they are our agriculture universities are preparing a disaster management plan as a follow-up of the national plan or execution of the national plan of disaster management plan for agriculture ministry. Similarly, here also it will be done. So blend of disaster safety and resilience of the physical assets and resources. That is important, because buildings, those are vulnerable to various kind of disasters. For example, earthquake, fire, landslide, location wise. If it is located in coastal area, that is prone to cyclone. If it are and tsunami located in the northeast or a hilly area, then it is prone to those kind of disasters. So it will look at this, and overall exercise will be done in coherence with the National Disaster Management Plan, the latest version in 2019 December. So, and then it will also ensure that the departmental constituents, our departmental roles and responsibilities, and the plans which are already existing, which have direct or indirect implications with the disaster risk and resilience. So those will also be integrated. So, for example, ministry also had already had some plan for chemical disasters, national action plan for climate change on chemical disaster management. Then the forest fire risk management plan is there. Then there are other plans also. For example, NAPCC is there, and its missions are there. Then plastic waste related plans are there, electronic waste, and then biomedical waste, ICZM, National Mission on Himalayan Ecosystem. So we will see that how we will work together, and we'll see that how these plans will be integrated, because nothing should go in isolation, and a lot of things will have a lot of interdependency and interlinkages. So that will be a kind of learning, and it will also help us emerge with an integrated environment and disaster risk management plan. Then integration with international policies also, like Sendai Framework for DRR, Paris Agreement, UNCCD, UNCCD deals with drought. So we also come in picture. Then Sustainable Development Goals, biodiversity, Aichi targets. Then chemical related, for example, we are party to various conventions like Rotterdam, the Stockholm Convention, Basel Convention. So that we'll see that how these will be integrated. Then natural resource management related international agencies where India is a member. Even if the MOEF is not directly a member, but contributing as a nodal agency on some aspects, we will see these kind of things also. So then objectives of MOEFCC. These are the objectives on lines of the CUSP principle, that is the culture of safety and prevention. So first point is to ensure the protection of infrastructure, assets, property and resources under the ministry and its department oblique establishments from disasters and extreme events. Then to ensure the activities of the ministry, activities of the departments or divisions of the ministry, including physical development and systemic practices. For example, if any institution is developing a building, or if institution is developing a campus, or any kind of a land use modification activity is being undertaken, any new, for example, a number of adaptation fund project is being implemented, you will see that how adaptation funded projects integrate the issues of disaster risk management also, and then need to ensure that do not aggravate hazard, risk and vulnerability to disaster. To ensure that activities and programs and schemes under the ministry increase disaster resilience and resilience against disasters and extreme events. It will also be aimed at ensuring that ministry and associated sectors and constituents at all levels are prepared to deal with situations arising out of disasters and emergency situations. For example, we were discussing that since the cyclones are causing severe damage to forests, what can be the strategy? Can we think of an alternative mechanism or alternative compositions of in our plantations? That just kind of a rough idea, but it will require a lot of detailed deliberations, and it will have a lot of inputs from the experts working in the various departments and divisions of the ministry. Then layout of the plan. It will have a description of the environment, forest and climate sector in India and its mandate, organizational chart, activities and programs. Then hazard, risk, vulnerability and capacity assessment, very important aspect, and that is actually a jaan hai plan ki bilkul. सबसे important होता है, because based on that the entire plan is developed. So the HRVCA is not done just by 1 or 2%, but it is done a participatory and systemic process, so that we are able to capture all the issues and the realistic issues, and with direct participation of the official which is nominated as the nodal officer from a particular division, so that the realistic things are captured, not only hypothetical issues are coming into picture. Then disaster mitigation and prevention plan, that is primarily for risk proofing and forewarning. Then disaster and crisis preparedness plan. So once something happens, that how we respond effectively, and that is a kind of a coordination plan. Then mainstreaming disaster risk reduction into programs and schemes of the ministry. Then disaster management plan of the development and establishments. As I told that, for example, FRI or ZSI will also be preparing a disaster management plan. So we will be giving a template, or we will be giving a guideline under this national plan. Then post-disaster impact assessment. So how disasters is affecting disasters, or various kind of disasters are affecting the environment sector, or the interest of environment ministry, environment and forest ministry, and how those need to be integrated into the recovery framework. And for that, for example, now we have the national financing mechanism called as NDRMF and SDRMF, National Disaster Response and Mitigation Fund, National Disaster State Disaster Response and Mitigation Fund. So how that mitigation money can be utilized here? So financial strategies for plan implementation. So internal and external monitoring mechanism or financial mechanisms. Then implementation roles and responsibilities, organizational framework, review and updation of the plan. How it will be updated, who will update. So all these kind of things. Then process will be, the plan would be developed under the participatory process facilitated by NIDM with professional support in drafting the plan, conducting detailed HRVA process, hazard risk vulnerability assessment process, including risk mapping, components of prevention, mitigation and risk response, recovery plans, and finalizing through consultative process. So risk mapping, like we will provide some kind of maps also. So those will be of direct input. And crisis management plan also be integrated here. Then these are the detailing of this process. I will not be reading out, but yes. So assessment and analysis, these kind of tools. So all kind of standard tools will be done, will be applied here. Then institution and establishments plan, all the plans which are existing and model template will be given. Then dissemination and capacity building plan will also be integrated. How the plan will be implemented. That process will also be defined under the plan. So these kind of things are there. Now giving some additional information just for the knowledge of the participants. as those that also relates with the subject. Like recently we have been able to come out with excellent case studies from Asia Pacific, where a number of significant case studies are there from India also, that how nature-based solutions are important for disaster risk management, published by Springer. Ministry of Environment and Forest is also publishing a book on climate change and disaster risk management, where we have facilitated the compilation of excellent case studies, and the Honorable Minister has already extended his forward, and it is in the process of publication. This is also a publication jointly with the Ministry of Environment and Forest, that we developed the climate risk framework for India, focusing on addressing loss and damages. This is the compilation of case studies on how various kind of ecosystems play significant role in disaster risk management. These are Indian case studies. Now, how the Indian environmental legislations are playing significant role in disaster risk management. So that will also give very good insights. Now, various kind of a policy insights based on researches, like the best practice compendium has also been developed. These kind of, like how peri-urban and urban ecosystems are playing for disaster resilience. This is a project under National Climate Change Action Plan, under National Knowledge Mission on Climate Change. There also we are trying to work. So preparation of this plan also have a lot of synergy with the themes like the green growth and DRR. And for this, the Ministry of Environment and Forest is custodian, then EIA and policy instruments for climate disaster resilience. So directly it comes into picture. Then climate smart disaster management. So like carbon neutrality, and then these are the other projects which currently we are implementing. So we'll have a lot of synergy and lot of cross learning, because now this crisis management plan is also already working. These are other publications, and some of the participants, they are interested. This is again a publication by MOEF, where I was a contributor. So a very interesting kind of things, and these publications are also available on my ResearchGate. If any of the participants are interested to look at those can be downloaded. So with this, I am thankful for to all the participants for their patient hearing, and now this opportunity with working closely with the Ministry of Environment, Forest, and all its constituents, departments, divisions, institutions. And it is like for me working very closely at home, because environment sector is my own sector. So thank you very much, and over to you, Meenaji, again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for very elaborately explaining the interlinkages between environment and the disaster, and also giving the brief overview of the disaster management plan for the ministry and how it will look like, and what will be the component. Now I I request all the attendees, if they have any queries, remarks, questions, they can ask their questions, remarks, or suggestions. So if anyone would like to ask any question, they can ask. I request all the participants to ask questions or remark, quick suggestions.
Yeah, please feel free. Your suggestions would be very useful for us, because it is a participatory process, and it will be a lot of cross learning from each other. We will also learn from you. Yeah.
sir, बताइए sir. I think many participants would like to speak, but
I would request that who is not speaking can please mute their mic. I would request that those who are not speaking can please mute their mic, and all the distinguished participants, if they can ask their questions. Any of the participants, Ji.
Sir, small question in the chat box
हाँ बताइए.
from Arun Kumar. Can you elaborate on forest fire risk management plan?
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, Arun Kumar ji, I think you must be from the forest sector.
I'm from Forest Survey of India. So
Okay, very interesting. We have been visiting your office in Dehradun very regularly. Ji.
Sir, I request those who are not speaking, please mute their mic. Or they can raise their hands so that we can come one by one to address their queries.
Host बाकी लोगों को म्यूट कर दीजिए. Host can mute.
Yes, sir. I'm muting other.
हाँ, आप बाकी को म्यूट कर दीजिए. हाँ, नहीं ये this point is already well taken. The forest fire risk management plan, which will be a constituent. So ये plan already बनाया हुआ है, which will also be further upgraded under this process, and it will be integrated into the ministry's plan. So disaster wise plan तो बनेंगे, but forest का बनेगा, chemical का बनेगा, लेकिन इनके अलावा we will include all the disasters, all other disasters also.
Now the
आपने
who has made this initiative forest fire risk management team? Whether forest department or some other ministry, who has done it?
हेलो, क्लियर नहीं हुई आप?
Who made this forest fire risk management? Some ministries have done it, or the forest department has done it? उसमें type करो.
Sir, your question is not clear.
Let me type in.
It's coming clear.
Who has made the forest fire risk management?
The forest fire management plan is developed by the ministry only in 2018.
Okay, it's made by the ministry only. Okay.
Now it will be integrated into this plan also.
Okay.
Hemant, actually, I also wanted to raise the same thing because I am also aware about this National Action Plan on Forest Fire, but I am not aware about the Forest Fire Risk Management Plan, which was mentioned in the PPT of Dr. Anil Gupta. So whether it is the same thing, yeah, it is a different plan.
Madam, अभी हम actually we will improve it in the process, because when we will develop disaster management plan for ministry, forest fire will already be there, but this plan will serve as the crisis management. So forest fire crisis management plan is already there. There more preventive dimensions will be taken care, that how the forest fire management will also be integrated into other aspects, like the climate change missions, also various other. So now it is only focusing on forest fire, but how it is it has linkages with other aspects, so that will also be taken care. And so this plan will remain. This plan will still remain. This plan will remain a valid plan, but it will be integrated into that.
That's okay, Dr. Gupta, but our concern, and in fact, FSI say Arun has asked. The concern was that my question is more to Hemant, because ministry has made this plan. I am not aware about it, and even FSI is not aware. So it was more like, if this is different from the National Action Plan on Forest Fire, and it's a crisis management plan particular to forest fire, then kindly share it with the FRI also and FSI also. And
we
the
have
question
only
to Dr. Gupta, I would like to know how the nodal officers who have been selected for this comprehensive disaster management plan assisting NIDM, how and what exactly will be our role, and whether there will be a particular disaster allocated to us for giving like inputs, or it will be like a overall scenario.
Yeah.
Usme kindly enlighten us.
Yeah. I got your point, madam. The nodal officers will be a kind of contact point. So all the disaster related inputs. So primarily when we will be conducting the hazard risk vulnerability assessment. So So under hazard risk vulnerability assessment will be conducted for all kind of disasters, not only forest fire. So for example, because any department has lot of assets, lot of property, lot of infrastructure also, but so soft and hard, both kind of things also, and those are prone to various kind of disasters.
Okay.
So it will include, forest fire is one of them. In fact, it will have and then the first stage will be a mapping of the hazard. So at this point, I will not say कि ये 15 लेंगे या 16 लेंगे या 17 disaster लेंगे. The first stage will be when we will have the first meeting with nodal officer. We will identify कि ये 40 disasters की list है. Which are the disasters which are more important for the forest sector in India, or environment sector in India. So आप सबके मिलके ही we will identify those disasters कि जिनको लेके हमको करना है. Then some specific disaster for which India में has already given directive. For example, pandemic, they have issued a directive कि pandemic को लेना ही लेना है. तो वो, that is why all the context will come to picture, and then we will prioritize that how to what extent various our sector is being affected by which disasters, है ना? Then उसमें भी अलग होगा कि infrastructure is affected by more by earthquake, से earthquake का risk है ना? या तो इस तरीके से, जैसे हिमालयन एरिया में लैंडस्लाइड विल बी अवर मोर कंसर्न, कोस्टल एरिया में इट विल बी सुनामी एंड साइक्लोन प्राइमरली विल बी अवर कंसर्न. So we will see that.
Fine. Thank you.
And sir, regarding regarding forest fire, Ministry has developed only national action for forest fire. There is nothing like national risk management of forest fire. Nothing like that.
So terminology का.
Yes, sir. Now I can invite Dr. Ramesh, who has raised his hand for question. Dr. Ramesh, please. Dr. Ramesh. Dr. Ramesh,
yeah. Now it has been unmuted. So I am Dr. Ramesh, representing the Wetlands Division. So at the outset, I thank NIDM and the Ministry for taking this important exercise, and specifically thanks Professor Gupta sir, because I look after wetlands in the Ministry. So you have already mentioned a couple of times the wetlands. The importance of wetlands has been duly recognized by you. So we thank you for that. So and we are eager to work with you in this area, sir. And just a small query, sir. Have you issued any guidelines or anything for the in the disaster management plans, the conservation aspects, or how the wetlands, the role of wetlands in the disaster management plans and all? Have anything has been done already, sir, or it's in the pipeline?
You have asked a very interesting question. Actually, currently we are working to develop a kind of a small guide document, maybe of 40 pages, that how wetland protection and conservation need to be integrated into district disaster management plan. You must be knowing this Ritesh na, wetland international.
He's one of our expert, yeah.
So Ritesh is working with me on that. So in fact, we also have a lot of things to learn from you. I'm highly interested in the subject. So हम उसमें we are developing, and it will be good. We will send you for review. आप उसको एक बार देख लीजिए तो बहुत अच्छा रहेगा.
Sure, sir.
है ना? My colleague Pritha will coordinate with you. है ना? Pritha is here. Pritha will coordinate with you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now I invite Girish, Mr. Girish from WCCB.
WCCB क्या होता है सर?
Wildlife Crime Control Bureau. Mr. Girish from WCCB may ask his question.
Is it the part of WII? No,
it's an independent body.
Located in Delhi?
Located in Delhi, and it has got presence across the India.
Okay.
Girish sir, बताइए sir.
I have unmuted him.
Oh.
Okay, I'm audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Ji.
Okay, thank you, Hemant. I followed two excellent presentations, very nicely mentioned, and all strategies for identifying the disaster and follow-up and the action plan preparation and all. It was excellent. So thankful to Gupta sir as well as Gularia madam for the I'm Girish, serving as Regional Deputy Director as well as Deputy Director, Intelligence and Coordination, Wildlife Crime Control Bureau. I sit in Delhi here. I have been nominated as a nodal officer in this exercise. Sir, my submission is because the definition of disaster covers losses of human also. So nowadays, what we have observed is a lot of conflicts between wild animals and humans, especially whenever the wild animals stray out from forested areas and protected areas. So I have a couple of examples, sir, wherein these kind of conflicts have been declared as a natural disaster. I hail from Uttar Pradesh cadre. So there was a state GO issued a couple of years back, wherein this human-animal conflict is declared as a natural disaster. So advantage of this is, sir, lot of wildlife crime is linked to these conflicts only. So whenever their conflict arises, and in retaliation, a lot of wild animals are killed. And when conflict is not handled properly, then there are many examples of human losses also. So, sir, it can also be taken up as a disaster here. We can have a chapter for it, and we can design a curriculum for training officers also, sir. So it is need of the hour, sir, because a lot of conservation has been put in the field, due to which, the wildlife numbers are increasing very fast, sir. So it is especially so correct with respect to big cat families. So, sir, my output it should be taken up even at the national level and NIDM also, so that it will be very advantageous to the field officers, field officials.
Precisely. We say in the last year we had a major workshop where ZSI and all WII, all these institutions participated, and it will be really a great learning for all of us, and we should take up this thing. Because there are both aspects you correctly pointed out, so we'll certainly take up this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now I invite DIG NTCA. I saw his name flashing on the screen. DIG NTCA, may please speak. I request
मुझे थोड़ा वो भी बता
National Tiger Conservation Authority, DIG NTCA. He has raised. Actually, his name has flashed on the screen.
छोटे-छोटे 3 पुल तो बनाने थे, मोतीचूर में बनाना था, 3 पानी में बनाना था,
एक खाने पीने की बात है। हाँ, ये तो कुछ खाने को तो मिल नहीं रहा है आज मीटिंग में।
सर मेरा सर बताइए सर।
ये कांग्रेस
देखिए मीना साहब, देखिए ये सूखी मीटिंग में लोग मोतीचूर और क्या क्या बात कर रहे हैं। अगली मीटिंग हमें वैसे करनी पड़ेगी।
सर, आई थिंक डॉक्टर रमेश अगेन वांटेड टू आस्क समथिंग। डॉक्टर रमेश सर
जी
बताइए। डॉक्टर
रमेश साहब,
Sir, if there are no more questions, then I request Mr. Panda for proposing vote of thanks.
Ashish Panda ji is here.
Mr. Ashish Panda may propose vote of thanks.
Okay, I think he got in some program. So, Richa ji, would you do that?
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, actually, Ashish ji is busy with some other workshop.
Ashish Panda ji has joined.
But Richa ji, you can propose a vote of thanks since Ashish ji was not full time here.
Sure, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, audible.
Please. Richa.
Yes,
Richa,
yes, sir.
1 minute. We missed one thing that we could not introduce our team. Just quickly 2 minute के अंदर introduce कर दें आप सब लोग।
हाँ,
तो अच्छा रहेगा। जी। अपने हमारी टीम।
Honestly, Manas, I have not been able to.
Ashish Panda ji, kindly introduce yourself. Anyway, you can start, Richa. आप introduce कर दीजिए अपने आप को.
So, yeah, I am Richa Srivastava. I am working with NIDM, presently associated with the National Agriculture Disaster Management Project.
Sanaya.
Looking forward for the next one, yeah.
Good afternoon, all. I'm Dr. Sanayangi Hodam from Manipur. I'm presently working as a research fellow for the development of National Agriculture Disaster Management Plan for the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. Thank you all.
Dr. Sushma already got introduced. Pandaji is here. Other members of my team.
So on the behalf of fraternity, I extend my vote of thanks to all from different institutes and each and every person involved in this environment and disaster integrated risk resilience and sustainable development workshop. First of all, I would like to thank MFCC for hosting this workshop with NIDM, and I would like to express our sincere thanks to the ED NIDM Shri Manoj Kumar Bindal sir, who despite his busy schedule managed to make it and to encourage us with his views, which are always great help to us. I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to Shri Sanjay Kumar sir, DGF, and to MFCC. His insightful advice is certainly going to be helpful for us while making the plan for the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change. A very hearty vote of thanks to the man behind the National Agriculture Disaster Management Plan and the head of ECDRM, Professor Anil Gupta sir, who is project director of had been a project director of NADMP also. A very thank you, sir. I would like to thank Dr. Sushma Guleria, Assistant Professor NIDM, for her informative presentation on the basic issues of developing DRR, which is going to be a great help for us while preparing the plan. I would like to sincerely thank Sri Hemant Kumar Meena ji, Assistant Inspector General Forest, MOFCC, for his overall contribution in coordinating the sensitization workshop. Since we have started, Mr. Meena has been continuous support to us from MOFCC. I look forward to work with you, Hemanji.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
And I would like to thank Dr. Sanayangi Hodam, who is part of our DMP team, who has worked on a National Agriculture Disaster Management Plan, and hopefully we will team up again for further preparing the plan for Ministry of Environment and Forest. And thank you all the ECRM team and the IT team who has supported us throughout. Thank you all, and I wish you a great day ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And with the permission of chair, we end this meeting. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Thank you all the divisional heads.
Hemanji,
बताइए.
5 seconds. Thanks to all the participants. Thanks to all the participants. We will be working together very, very closely, and that will be a great learning exercise. And thank you, Hemant Meena ji, and the entire team of MOEF. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.